Hello, hello, everyone. I love that. Um, Before I get started, I just want to make sure to say two things. If you guys have any thoughts while we are talking, take notes and you can share because sometimes in the end you ask, you have questions and then you feel, oh, I had something. What was it again? So like if you had a paper or your cell phone, you can make notes and you can be thinking through it. If you have like, oh, she said something that was interesting. I want to listen more about that. Or like you want to add something so you can make notes. And questions, of course, so like your thoughts and questions. And also like I'll be using my phone for my notes because my notes was here. Just so you all know, I'm not texting anybody in the US. I'm just taking notes. Okay, it might look a little rude, but it is on my phone because that's how it was before I got here and said I'm too lazy to write all of this down. So these two things. So let's get started. We are talking a really important subject for I think all of us, right? And sustainability has been like a hot topic lately. And it's not lately, it's an old thing, but the name by itself, sustainability, I think, is more recent. And is thinking like when we are doing that in the New York City specifically thoughts, we are in the middle of the parks. And I think, oh, how beautiful is this to be like in the parks. But the challenge of being sustainable, like environmental sustainable, is huge. So we are always like in constant conversation with the parks department to ensure like we cannot put some plants there that are really specific about how you use public space. And the sustainability, not just in the environmental sense, but like in other ways of seeing sustainability, how to be sustainable financially, in the community and social, there are many ways. That's a discussion that we have in this beautiful panel, and like so diverse. And we'll get started with the first question was, what is sustainability, right? We can go so many directions and like, what is sustainability? In this, I'll give you the chance to introduce themselves while they are thinking about that and how they use this in their own field. So I'll get started right here with my colleague, Isabel. You can get started. Oh, you have that.
Yeah. What is sustainability? Oof. I'm running this festival. That's why I'm here, which is called Arbola, and we say that is the festival that celebrates the culture of trees, and we say that it's a festival that that deals with this eco transition that we have to face. We have to accelerate, no? And of course, sustainability is a main, is something that is very important, no, for this festival. But because sustainability, it has to do with the environmental issues, but it's not only an environmental issue, it's also and foremost a social and a cultural issue. And so that we as cultural managers, as festival directors or cultural practitioners, this is where we can be agents of sustainability agents in this transformation that we want to do, this acceleration. How to accelerate the transition from the ego to the eco, no? This that we are into. So I don't feel that I'm capable of talking of how it is sustainability, because it's something that is so. But an idea that I want to express, for me is very important to share with you guys, is that we have long passed the horizon of sustainability. Like maybe, some years ago, I think that we passed this sustainability horizon, and we should also think in terms of regeneration, No? How can we not only sustain, but regenerate so that we can, we can tackle this thing that is, this terrible tsunami that is coming, that is climate crisis. So to tackle climate crisis, I think it's important for us to think in terms of regeneration. Regeneration, should I go? No? Okay. Regenerations of our territories, how can we think as festival managers how to engage with local communities? It's something that we're going to talk about later. So regeneration of our territories, but also regeneration of our minds, of the social imagination, the social and imaginary. How can we deal with that? But I don't want to. I think that for me, sustainability, I always think of regeneration, but maybe we can go through that more deeply later.
You have one, okay, yeah.
Hello. I don't know how to define sustainability. I can think of how I heard about it. I heard about it the first time when we were starting our small independent pioneering festival back home in Syria in 2007. No, actually before that. We were starting an independent film school in 2003, and we were fundraising. We were talking to Western philanthropies and organizations who were allowed to work in our country, because most of them were not and still are not allowed to work in our country due to embargo. But the ones who were potential partners were always say, okay, we give you this much money, but you need to present us with a clear proposal of how will you be sustainable. Now, what does sustainable here mean? It means basically a financial calculation that proves that within a few years, if you give me this money, I will not need it anymore. So that was the first encounter with the notion. And then if I look at the history of this, it goes back, I mean, it's pretty simple. It goes back to a man called Roosevelt. So Roosevelt, post-World War II, proposed what we today know as international development. The whole notion, or the word development, is part of discussing the word sustainability. So after the end of the colonial era, as we know European colonialism, the American colonialism came in the form of two things done by Roosevelt the guy and Roosevelt the lady. She introduced human rights, International Declaration for Human Rights, and he introduced international development. And these two elements became key in how we started a new relationship between the powerful and the less powerful, between the rich and the poor. And they created long lists of criteria like that we should be meeting, that we should be adapting towards. And then they allocated money. Instead of allocating money to invade us directly, they did that, of course, in some cases, but generally the plan was to replace invading us with a cheaper thing, which is development. Now, within a few decades, development became too expensive, and the idea of stopping things like USAID that happened just a few weeks ago now has been being studied for years now. And then the word sustainability came along. It also came along in different countries where there is petroleum economy, petroleum-based economy, and studies started to show that the petroleum will be finished at some point. And then the word sustainability became necessary. So this money coming continuously from the ground will stop. How do we sustain ourselves? To me, sustainability, Priscilla, is the act of fixing where we stand. That's why I find the notion of regeneration to be, I fully agree, it is indispensable here, because the original notion of sustainability does mean we do not want change. So I'm doing this brilliant festival, and I need to guarantee that I'm comfortable doing it forever, and that it will only grow. So here comes the notion of growth that cannot be out of this discussion either. And I don't want, and I will keep doing it until a new generation comes and hates me so much that they will need to assassinate me in order to make something new. That's sustainability. That is the same way we think of it with environment, but there we have done so many crimes against the environment, we as a species, that we have to think this way. But we also think of sustainability for environment as, okay, we need things to stay the same way they were, right? It's a pretty conservative idea, you know, but we are trying to offset our own bad actions towards the environment. But through that, what we're saying is, what a disaster, there are species disappearing and new species coming in. But although that's always been the regeneration of nature, but we're trying again to offset what we have done wrong over the past century at least. So to me, the question of sustainability is a bit too normative, a bit too conservative. And the question to me goes back to meaning of what we do, and to the fact that I do not seek or dream. My hope is not that we all continue doing what we are doing forever. The question is, how can we keep doing this in different ways over time? How can we keep reinventing the meaning and adapting? How can we be integral or organic enough to our societies or to the experience of humanity or our earth in ways that make our work always a living artistic challenge, so it's always changing what it is rather than streamlining itself, fixing itself. So it is very much to me comparable to heteronormativity. So in a way, when we say, I have this wonderful young philosopher friend, and they do a lot of work on queerness and on studying heteronormativity, and they drew my attention years back to this point that we have this life story that we all are automatically striving to fit in. So we have to find a partner. And then in most cultures, we have to marry them. And then society applauds, you know, and there's music in the background. And then we marry them, and then we get to grade 2 in the game. We have to get children. If we don't get children, yeah, we stay in grade 2, you know, like, so we get children. And then when we get children and the children study medicine or become successful entrepreneurs, that's when society gives us the whole pack, you know, like, cheers to you, you've done it. What is the parallel to this in our cultural work? It is in many ways that we manage to streamline what we do, guarantee that it is sustainable, that it is growing all the time. So we start from being a small grassroots initiative, we get the applaud for that. But if we stay like that, everybody forgets us in 2 years. We need to grow. We need to become the biggest in somewhere. And we keep growing until we become the biggest in the world, for example. Then that's an accomplishment. So this kind of understanding of what we do that brings in all the corporate business or the capitalist mentality into it, brings it together with conservatism, and then we end up wanting all the time to grow, and it doesn't matter anymore how much effort we put into offsetting our environmental effects, because we are growing, and merely by growing we are harming. But we are so proud. So in a way, there's a certain machismo, or a certain masculinity, in traditional conservative masculinity in this approach. And there is at the same time the dream of nations who keep developing, keep growing their economy, and in a way, it's the same story that ends up with xenophobia, with not wanting foreigners. So if we keep on sustaining and growing as culture, we will get to a place where we are closed and where we have to be destroyed by the next generation. Otherwise, there's no growth. Otherwise, there's no collective regeneration. So that, to me, is the first attempt at answering what is sustainability. It's a bad word.
It's a bad word?
Bad word.
Bad word. Yeah, but we can use it, no?
Yes. I use a lot of bad words, Isabel.
No, because if not, we are talking about sustainability.
Just to speak with your mic.
Oh, yes.
Okay. If you have one.
No.
Okay. Let's keep moving. Natacha, actually, I admitted one mistake. I'm right in the middle, and I'm the mediator. I shouldn't be in the middle. Would you mind changing with me, please? Okay. Okay. I was just like, why am I in the middle? Okay.
I want to do.
Would you mind going there? Okay. Thank you, guys. Just like I was right in the middle. I'm like, I'm just mediating here. Why am I in the middle? Like I shouldn't be in the center of the conversation. So now we can keep moving here.
Should I go? So I'm going to introduce myself because I haven't been with you in these dynamics. I work for the San Sebastian International Film Festival, and my name is Amaia. I do different things in the festival, but mainly the reason why I'm here is because I work in an area called Thought and Discussion, and I'm part of the all year round festival. So I'm going to give you a little bit of context. To be fair, I think I'm not able to answer to the question of what's sustainability. I don't have the knowledge to be fair. So I'm going to talk from a really practical way and from our perspective and our experience in this journey, and you can ask me whatever you want to ask me. The San Sebastian Film Festival has been running for 73 editions. It's a festival which the main venue would be that one you can see through the window, but this building is one of the main venues too. It's a festival that has been through many things, many directors, many political situations and things. And I think that one of the main features of the festival is that we are always self-reflecting and always thinking about how we can change, how we can change our structure, the way we work, the way we see things, and the way we make relationship with the community we are in, because San Sebastian as a city and San Sebastian, the people in San Sebastian, it's really, really important to the festival because mainly the city's name is in the name of the festival. So obviously we have a really, really close relationship with the people here. And it's a festival for the people. It has changed a lot through the years, but it's a festival for the people. So I'm going to do this long thing short. In 2019, we made this kind of structuration, I don't know if that's even a word, but we divided the festival into 3 boxes. The main one would be films. The second one would be films to be, which for us would be all the work in progress, the projects and everything. And the other one would be thought and discussion. It's a place where we think and discuss about many things, not about the name of the box, because it's a really simple name, but we discuss about gender, inclusivity, diversity, sustainability in our festival. And this has 2 parts. The one path related to the company. I mean, how we can apply gender policies, sustainability policies, diversity policies to the festival as a company, and how we can put all those issues in our program, or how our program speaks to those issues, and how we can be like a model to the city and to the film industry too, which is a really, really big goal. And we know that, I mean, we know that it's really difficult to achieve, but we are working on it. So with regard to sustainability, and I'm going to talk from a really like environmental point of view. We started this journey in 2020 before the pandemic. So we were thinking about this kind of long journey where we were going to like, I don't know, do things like slowly. And in March 2020, everything changed. And something that was really important to us became a really urgent thing and something that we had to do like really quickly. So this year it was the first year where we were a carbon neutral festival. But I would yeah, okay, thank you. I like the clapping, but I would be really interested to talk with you how we got to that, and if it's, I mean, and I'm not being like, I don't know the word in English. I don't want to be like bad with ourselves, but I think we have to be really real. So in which way we got to these kind of things, and about the compensation, the reduction, and how real are all these things to really, really big festivals as San Sebastian. So we can talk about that after that, during the session. And yeah, so we've been in this journey for 5 years, and I think something you said about growing, it's like the main thing, because we are really focusing on reducing, changing workflows, and doing compensation, but we don't think for a minute to do less, to program less, to have less films, to have less people here. So, and we always have this mentality where more is better, and I think that we have to combine both things. We have to reduce, but we have to do less. And yeah, I don't know how can we get there if you want to be a competitive festival. So it's a tricky one. So yeah, that would be it for now.
So I'm kind of shy. That's why I feel better in the age. So the first of thing, sorry that my English is not very good when it comes from complex themes. So I write the paper because it helps me to be a little bit more clear for you as well. It's very good that you put all the things said before, because it helps a little bit what I wanted to bring to you. Because I really want to problematize also the notion of sustainability, and taking the classical what we understand, no? So it will say you don't have to compromise the resources from tomorrow by the actions for today, or this is what we discuss most of the times, and I think there is hidden on these words a lot of things that is very important to think about it. And once is the word resources, because when sustainability speak about resources, in general refers to tangible resources. So from the perspective of neoclassical economy, which even in its own define, speak more about in terms of scarcity. So what's going to be gone if we use, and in our field, in the field of culture, this is not a very relevant discussion, because most of the resources that we produce and that we handle, they are intangible. They are from intangible nature. So with the use, it multiplies. The language that we share, the experience in a territory, the knowledge that we have. So most of the things, most of the value of the culture doesn't fit in this logic. So this is first point. The other is the notions of times, no? The resources for not compromise today for tomorrow, which includes a very linear way of thinking in time. And most of the cultures, they don't share this logic from linear time. So there is these notions of past and future content in the present. If we look in the past, it's because it stands in front of us. And this is the only thing that we have to guide us towards the future. The future could be in our back because it's our worries, it's what we have uncertain. And this, it is interesting to think which aspects of the past do we make visible today to remain relevant, and what we need to seek and bring forth in response to the present crisis. So thinking about our practice, because I want to do the effort always to translate to our practice, as my Portuguese friend Curator says, it's not theater, it's not the scenic art, a form of experimental archaeology in a space where stories are excavated and unearthed. So let's question this notion of time also in sustainability. Third, efficiencia. Culture manager is narrowly understood in terms of its ability to transform resources into cultural outcomes. This is what he was focusing on, technical efficiency and optimal market size. So productivity and economies of scale and scope. And it places a great importance on optimization conflict between the imperative of the creative industries policies paradigm and the value that it might wish to place on the living embodied forms of the performing arts. So we have to try to think if this fit to our sense of doing, because it's a lot of pressure on that, naming the development concept. And fourth, the well-being, because it's understood through consumption rather than to care, and imposing a conceptual hegemony of development which suggests a single trajectory, going forward, always forward. And instead, I listen a lot to the concept that in the conference of the indigenous people in Ecuador, who was held in the 2000, who make sure that they put in the constitution the concept of buen vivir, well-being, and it speaks about the nature and as a subject of rights. No, los derechos non-human rights, and it values the wisdom of those deeply connected to land, to territory. So, problematizing these 4 points, what we are talking about when we are talking about sustainability, then, and human rights and non-human rights. Social organization, and this is important because the issue of sustainability is systemic, so the solutions about it, they also have to be a collective agreement. International cooperation, this is another thing that we have to face, and then bringing colonialism and South-South relation, and I have to say that South-South relations not linked to a geographic concept, but more a concept that concentrates power in one point. And this is interesting for us to know if the North gonna engage in the South-South relations, what role they're going to play in this agenda, and how they wish to engage, and which commitment they are willing to make, and with which objective. So this is things that we have to agree as well. And for the last, and I finish here, the economic power. We are talking about economic power. We are talking about distribution versus accumulation of capital. And specific between our practice, we need to rethink and redesign funding systems. Share more and compete less. All our funding systems are based on the competition among us, among colleagues. Foster inter and intra-institutional alliances and the sense of shared responsibility among organizations, agents, and public administration. To decentralize, which is very important, and strengthen existing resources, instruments, and programs. So we are too fragmented. We are working too fragmented, and this need to have a systemic vision between the financial systems as well. Shift toward common-based resource distribution, promoting longer and slow production processes. And then last, if art cannot depend only on financial resources, because that creates dependency. And we need more to build scenarios of interdependencies between us, among us. We are not also independent, we share interdependence, where multiple, reciprocal, and temporary hierarchies coexist. And this is important, dynamic hierarchies. We spoke today about that. So that is something that I want to throw, that for me is very useful when I think about the sustainability in the projects. It's like I go through all these aspects because it seems to help us to define our road and the ideology where we are based our actions somehow.
Yeah, I think you might just get Thanks. Orwa, is that the right way to say your name? Perfect. Okay, I'm sure it is not. But I love your acceptance of that. You mentioned something that we all resemble with about growth, like how we can grow, and I think that's what we all want in some way. But the question is like, how can we do that, right? If you guys could think like an examples of like we are all talking about growth, especially in a context that arts funding is like decreasing. And like we see more and more of this issue out there, especially in the political climate, in many locations where arts funding is decreasing, and how we can think about growth on that context and in a sustainable way, right? Because you cannot just think in growing because like, okay, my festival this year is like 2 days, next year will be a month. Like how you build that capacity to really be able to grow and like give you the steps to get there, and making sure that this is like is sustainable and your well-being will not be like affected. You not go crazy, and then after that you go to like buy music or buy arts. I'm done. So like how we can do that?
I think it is a very difficult moment, particularly because we are stuck with the idea of growth while we actually cannot be growing. And this gets anybody who is not accepting or who is not really finding this different language and different way of imagining that doesn't measure our success by growth, or our value, not even success actually, our value by growth. If you cannot do this transition away from growth, then this moment of lower funding, of less funding, will break you. And this is happening, and I dare say will keep on happening to different institutions. Now, of course, this should apply to bigger institutions. So I worked in two very different organizations as festival director or co-director over the years. I founded a festival, an independent festival in Syria, and that you can imagine was small. The team year-round, we were 5. We also did other things, other projects together. It was not only the festival. And during the festival, we would have like 5 more people. But we managed to have so many people come, artists, filmmakers, and audience. And then it was very automatically useful because we managed within 2 years to say the largest in our region. That sold very well. Now, do we care about it? I don't know if we started from wanting to be the largest, because it's a stupid competition. There are 2 very small other festivals in the region, so it's very easy to become the largest. But at the same time, you immediately recognize the simple, pragmatic brain recognizes that if I say we quickly became the largest, this many thousands, this many thousands, this many thousands of this, of that, and then you put them into a pie chart, and then you get the money. And in a way, this little pragmatic exercise is a compromise at the core of why we do what we do. Now, to me, and I already promised Inge I'll speak about this point, to me, this is the big question, that also working with filmmakers making their films, or artists making their artwork, it's always, to me, a key question. We will all compromise. That's life. That's how we live. Now, we can measure the limits of our compromisability. Like, how much would I accept to compromise? Then we can compete, which is who is better than whom. But we will compromise. We do not get funding and what we need from the world by just doing what we want exactly in a very, narrow-minded way that we will not negotiate. So compromise is negotiation, including negotiating with people who do not really understand what we do, be that politicians or philanthropists who come from totally different mentalities, etc. What happens here is, to me, what's necessary is to see the compromise. The problem starts when you stop noticing that this is a compromise and you start identifying with it. The compromise becomes you. So we start, in a way, defining our work by those facts and figures, for example. And that's when we start to be enslaved by this mechanism. So here, there are all of these different sets of values, such as sustainability. I'm talking now about financial, especially, financial, legal, etc., sustainability, that become the way that we are conformed, that we are like the system streamlines us, streamlines culture. So this, again, if I look at history very easily, this to me starts from the question of the industrialization of art and culture. And there are different theories of when did this happen, this industrialization. I mean, one of the key points is the UK national study on the creative industries that was at the end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, I don't remember now. And that was the first time that the term creative industries was propagated so widely. And we started all thinking of using the word industry and in creative industries. And then gradually the universities started to introduce cultural management studies and creative industries studies and so on. So creative industries should be sustainable and should keep on growing. They should be inclusive when that's the buzzword. When there's a different buzzword, we have to adapt. Now, in a way, this is how culture was tamed by a neoliberal system. Do we see it as such? Do we find it in ourselves to negotiate with this system, to find the limit of acceptance, but also try to sustain our own integrity as a field in general, because each one of us stands for the integrity of art and culture, not even for theater or film or, So in a way, that's the main question to me. Can we stand for the integrity of this field, not by saying, I am going to bomb all of you capitalist neoliberal bastards? No, but by realizing the negotiation and making sure that I see my limits, that I am part of the world, so I am not alone here owning the truth, even when I'm sure who's in front of me is not what I want to be or not what I like, still they exist with me on the same planet, and we have to find mutual paths. So we negotiate, so we compromise, and we continue. That stopped, or culture as a sector was educated to think of itself as an entrepreneurial corporate activity. So you are measured as a small festival by how you do, if measured by all the parameters that you would measure a startup. As a bigger cultural institution or festival, you are the benchmark, the comparison is always that of a corporate. So the terminology, the consultants, the advice, the format of managing your money, the format of how you deal, how the tax system understands you, why do politicians agree in the parliament to give money to culture? It all comes down to this understanding of industrializing what we do. Do we have the power to refuse that? I dare say no. But do we not see it? That's the thing. So I will accept to compromise, but only when I see it, when I know that this compromise is what I'm accepting to keep this connection together. But this compromise is not truly why I do what I do, or how I define myself, or how I stand for the integrity of art and culture. It's this. So I hope I didn't miss your question. It was.
There are many others.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, maybe.
No, you can use that one.
Yeah, it's a very central question, the growth, no? I think that when we are running whatever project, cultural project, whatever project in general, we have this challenge of being relevant, no? What we do, we want it to be relevant, significant. And we want to be, our project to be part of the cultural ecosystem of our city. And we wanted people to talk about, and the presence in the press and in the media. So this is something that is, we have to be always trying to grow its relevance, its presence, everything. And sometimes we can think that this growth is in size. And maybe we can find another ways of growing. We can think, because the festivals, I see it, this tendency, you goes because of what you were talking about, because it's easier. Money gets money, gets money, gets money. The bigger you are, the easiest it is to get money. So, yeah, to avoid to fall in these dynamics, we have to think maybe in other ways of being relevant in our singularity, for instance. We can say that we are the biggest festival, or we can say that we are the only festival that deals with some particular subject, for instance, or we can grow in the legacy that this is very important for me, for instance, I want to grow in the in the engagement of the people that are in my neighborhood in the festival. And this is going to bring a legacy in the neighborhood. You know, some projects that we are doing that have to do with this renaturalization that I was talking about before, they are going to leave a legacy. We have established this alliance with the city government and with the public school and this. So for me, this is a way of being more significant and relevant and have access to more funding in the future. But for me, it's very important to think about the right size, the size that we won't be compromised. No? The right size is very important. I often feel very overwhelmed when I think in sustainability because we tend to think that everything we do is never enough. No, I often feel myself very lost, no, in this labyrinth, this maze of a lot of regulations, recommendations, and things about sustainability. So I adopted a mantra which simplifies, no, my path, which is like, enough is better. So every time that I think, okay, enough is better. How can I apply this into my practice? Yeah, in terms of growing, this is what is enough in terms of a team? What is enough in terms of this? Because one other thing also is this diversity of funding, not to be more, more independent, autonomous. I need to have a variety of funding because if I only rely on one or two or three, my future is going to be compromised. No? So in terms of funding, what is enough? In terms of how many funders I have. So this is something that I ask myself a lot. What is enough? How many productions, how many artistic residencies, how many shows, how many side projects. And this is, but maybe you also have more thoughts about this.
Well, what I observe is what we do in the performing arts. Things that are not very good for our field is the constant desire for new pieces. No? This obsession with the premieres. This is one thing. So this imposing certain conditions, for the work of the artist, and also restricting circulation. So if you have to do the premiere here and you are not allowed to do your piece in this other festival in this other region before you do to me, even if you cross this country and it's good, you have to go first here. So this is absurd when we programming. We curators or we festival organizations, we have to get out of this practice. They are very bad for artists. And they also formatted the head of the artist. They really think that they have to do new work all the time. Disregarding processes, disregarding time again, and disregarding time for research, which is the base of a good work, of legitimate work. So this is one thing. The other thing is this idea of discovering artists. I discovered that one, which one do you discover? And this talk that I, as a curator, I witnessed many times is horrible and reminds me really of also a way to colonialism inside our practice. Another thing is putting in the festivals, taking the pieces and the artists and the teams. You come, you do your piece, you go. Because it's expensive to keep you in the hotel for the whole festival. So that's then dismissing that the art is an idea of a state of encounter. And So these are the things that we have to, talking about theoretically and economics and la la la. So again, how we introduce to our practice and what are the mistakes? The mistakes, they're not only outside our sector, they are inside our sector. This is a co-responsibility that we have towards that. And we have, in the very education, art education, this idea of competition, this idea that only one of us or few of us going to succeed in what we do. And in the financial systems. And regarding our spaces, our structures, the forms of organization towards the use of that, the use of the structures, which is not cooperation of collaboration, but it's a competition. So that's a serious things that we really have to, talking about the good conduct thing, that we have to do also as a festivals curators and artists. Because it's an ecosystem. If we are all co-responsible, and we have to decide these things and agree these things together. I think that demanding artists, to not use plastic things or to travel a little bit less, or these things are not really asking the relevant questions to our sector. Our sector is not the sector that's gonna pollute the world. I mean, one day of war gonna allow us to do half century of festivals with no problem. One day, one fucking day of war.
Of what?
War.
War.
So, how you dare to ask us how many people travel, and if we use plastic things, and these demands that they are effective to the art sector, which has so precarious filling these forms. They are not asking for the enterprise that they are working. I mean, in my country, I have a Finnish enterprise that does paper and pollute the whole water. But then you have the Finnish Art and Council thing, asking these things for the artist, and not efficient for the enterprises. So these double standards that we have all the time, in human rights, in legal frames, in sustainability understanding, they're running in front of us. And we don't have a word to say? No, we feel they say, no, we recycle and la la la, and we don't gonna print the program. Fuck it, it's not our program that's gonna make a difference. No, but this is really, no, but I don't understand me wrong.
Yeah, but I think you're right. But I think but it's a symbol too. I mean, the decisions you make as a festival and as a public figure, are a symbol to people. So
but
I think
don't understand me wrong, because
either.
I don't want to dismiss the micropolitics. I recycle in my house, but I'm very aware that I put plastic and paper separate, then goes to the back, and then goes together again in my country. In the single way. So I do, because I think it's important to do for myself, but I know and I'm conscious that doesn't going to change. Doesn't going to change the key of the problem, because the key of the problem is not that we don't print our program. The key of the problem is that we live in a system that benefit from these unequal relations between the knowledge of sustainability.
Yeah, but I think that you said something before about the promotion of the discovering, the premiere and the stuff. I think that there's a question about how sustainable in every way is the promotion of a film in my field, because I don't really know about other fields. Like, you have to premiere your film in maybe Cannes, and then you have to go all over the world during the whole year so that your film can be premiered in a cinema, for example, and be seen by the public. So I think that's something really important too. And when we are talking about environmental sustainability, I mean, it's really important to reduce the plastic, the paper and stuff like that. And it makes a difference, but the real issue for every festival is the mobility. It's not the plastic, it's not the paper. It's bringing people to the city. It's moving people around all the time. And in which kind of means they are moving? Are they coming by train? Are they coming by bike? Are they coming by plane? Or are they coming by private plane? Which is something really important too. And because sometimes because we, for example, in the festival, we try to reduce everything, and we do. I mean, we took out the physical catalog, we took out the bags, we took out the plastic, we took out those things we had in the office, we took out everything, and we are trying to make people come by train, and the most sustainable means to come to San Sebastian. But then you have to enter like a wheel of being in some kind of festivals. Like we are trying to compete with Cannes, Berlinale, Venice, Rotterdam, and you have to bring people to the city. And these people, they are not coming by train in Renfe. They are not coming by a really like commercial plane. And you can be really, really, really specific about taking out the catalog, taking out the paper. But if one person is coming in a private plane, all your measurement is going away. It doesn't really matter. You have to compensate that. So I think it's really, I mean, I see your point and I agree, because we are not going to change the world, but I think it's important to make some gestures and to to show something. And then I think,
You're going to conclude your thoughts.
Sorry, yeah. I'm too...
No, I don't get me wrong. I don't say that these things we have to do these things, but these are not the most important thing that the culture can do for the environment. The most important things that culture can do for the environment is to change the narrative from how we want to live together in this world. This is our power. Yes. So the questions that the institutes of the public policies have to ask to the festival is not only how many people you took, is these people that you mobilize, with narrative they put into questions. You know, this is the thing where or let's say, we work with symbolic production. We can do so much, but so much in changing the view from the communities where we are working and the territories where we are working. This is our strength. And I have to say, if this strength works isolated, if the culture, if we continue meet between ourselves asking these questions, it's also doesn't going to grow in its potential. Because the problem is systemic, and we need to think also systemic. We need to think together with other knowledge fields. Why we don't think sustainability together with people there in the economics? Because not all the people in the economics are assholes. There are a lot of people that they are questioning that in a very good way, and they have elements that we must know. And in these discussions, we also have to be, as a cultural field, giving our values and our views and our tools and this doesn't happen. We discuss these things, culture in one side, economic in one side, health in one side, politics. We not work intersectoral towards the solutions in the agenda, and to complex problems, complex solutions. It's not, we cannot be easy on that.
Okay.
My question is, because we continue having this discussion within the system, and Orwa said, we live in this world, this is the world that we are part of. And this is true, but I wonder, can we also disrupt the system? Can we break through the system? Can we go beyond the system? And it goes to what you are saying. And I think that gathering here with us is incredibly crucial, because if you think about, we are complying, like Meg said, we are complicit with the rules. We are the ones who are saying, like, we're gonna follow these sustainability rules, instead of, as a sector or as a collective or as a community, responding also to these things and being solidary in our reaction, like maybe being sustainable, but also demanding this of other sectors. So for me, it's still the question, like, a system that actually is making us as human beings ill, and our environment and our grounds and our... Can we think beyond it? Can we think about sustainability also outside of it?
Can I respond? Yes?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, this is something that for me is very important, and I think that, you have now started addressing it, which is that this is for me is our main power, is that sustainability is also a narrative, and this is can be our contribution as art, at people that work in the art sector. Art has this transformative power, so I think for me personally, the biggest challenge is not maybe this loss of biodiversity or the climate change thing, but is that we have arrived to a point where the narrative that is the most powerful is the end of the world, this dystopian futures that are everywhere in the series we see, in films and books, and we think that that we feel very powerless, not like this is so difficult to change. How can we do? So for me, it's our power as art practitioners and cultural managers, and if it is our power, it is our responsibility to change the narrative through our festivals, in the program that we do, in the activities that we organize, that to give space to eco-visions, no? How can we have a more positive the trust in the future that for me is very necessary. Maybe if we think, and it's necessary not because maybe if it's nothing, if it's no one's seeing me, in my intimacy, maybe I can be very pessimistic. But when I'm in public, I am positive, because for me it's more practical, it's more powerful, it's more operative, is necessary, because I think the biggest challenge is this apathy, is this inaction that is brought by the fear of the future. So for me, it's very important, like, to introduce this aspect in the conversation. No? How can we act in this? How can we rehearse in the present the future that we want to have? How can we bring to, which projects and works and things that deal with this other possible desirable future? Yes, this is something that I wanted to say.
I wanted to briefly comment, because I think the point of complex solutions for complex problems is essential here. And I do agree. I mean, like, there's a lot of cynicism, there's bigotry. I mean, real hypocrisy in the way that, for example, European cultural institutions and festivals now are trying to get certified for our green activities because the EU funding is now conditional to that. But we all really know, and the people who give the certificates know, that this is a bit like fake. But let's just play the game, and we know that this is coming from politicians who will stay there for 4 years and would like to skip. So there is the difference between, I'll return to you, there's a difference between the hypocritical, privileged claim of care and a serious grassroots belonging to human and non-human, to earth and to our nature. There's difference. Most of the catalogs and programs of festivals, in film at least, that's what I understand, and I join you in that, were cancelled and replaced by PDFs first and then by the websites over the years. And we know it was because of financial reasons, but we really bragged a lot about the great deed that we are doing. Now it's recently, festivals are doing less and less tote bags. That's because there's less money. But we really all tell the world that this is, we're so good, we're pioneering, we're pushing the boundaries. It's very good when we can save money and brag about it being our good deed for the environment, but at the same time, a lot of being good for the environment is very expensive. So to me, I'm just, one anecdote that stays with me that I always remember was a meeting when I was newly in Amsterdam running this massive festival compared to what I have done before. And there I had a meeting with a very fancy, top-notch cultural organization who wanted to collaborate on educating and raising awareness in a poor nearby neighborhood in Amsterdam with a vast majority of African, Caribbean and Arab immigrants living there. And the aim was to educate them about recycling, about the importance of not using plastic, etc. And I was in the meeting and those really very fancy, beautiful people were sitting in front of me telling me about this, and then I found myself saying, do you know that the life expectancy on average in this neighborhood is 10 years less than the rest of the city? And they said, so what, they shouldn't recycle? And I laughed and I said, no, they should recycle, but if you want to talk to them about recycling, you go first, stand on stage and tell them, I am sorry that you live 10 years younger, less than us. Can you recycle, please? I mean, at least you have to acknowledge this massive gap before you start asking them, for whatever it is that you want. So we can disrupt, we should disrupt, but to me, that is part of our own journeys. When is it that you find the moment, when is it that you cannot not disrupt? And when is it that you find your way in a much more calm or accommodating way with your surrounding? I need just to make sure that when I personally, also talking about how I try to articulate myself, I need to make sure that when I try to offer radical thought, I am not unforgiven towards compromise. So to me, it is about saying it is okay to negotiate and to compromise. You're not a bad person. You're not a terrible conformist if you negotiate with the system. But this, as long as you are aware of it, that you can see it and name it and say, this is a compromise, I accept to do it. And you do not lecture me the next day that this compromise is what you really wanted and it's genius. I mean, it's not, it's a compromise. Yeah.
A quick
That's
thing
what I was
to
about
that.
to say.
I
Yeah,
just want to
Amaia,
add one
yes.
thing to that. It's sometimes, because I'm really, sometimes in the office, I'm really radical too, and we are going to take that out and we are going to do this. And sometimes if you compromise and you are going to get to the point like with more time and later, it's better because people understand that what they are doing. And what I mean is like, I think we live in a really weird time where it's really easy to find yourself or your festival or your institution doing like really, really weird and hypocritical and stupid things in sake of, I don't know, sustainability, like poverty, like diversity, gender issues. But sometimes if you are doing it from, and this may be like a little naive, and I'm sorry, but if you are doing it from a real place and from a calmer place, it may get a little bit more to get to the point, but I think it's safer and it's going to be more sustainable in time because, for example, for us, at the beginning with this environmental sustainability thing, we started to take like really radical measures and no one in the company was understanding anything. People were doing it because they had to, and we really understand that maybe sometimes it's easier to take compromises, or I don't know how you say it, but like to do things that you don't really want to do in the path. If you have the main goal like really clear, it's going to be better. And you can see in our website which kind of compromises have we taken through the years, and you can know what I'm talking about. But I think that if you have the goal clear, it's better and it's going to be more efficient. I don't know, maybe a little bit naive, but yeah.
Yeah, I was always concerned about what is hidden behind this word. And I want to share with you, maybe some of you have already heard about this, but when the pandemic started, Jérôme Bell, this well-known dancer, he wrote a letter and a statement saying, okay, that's the time, this is the crisis, we don't have to travel anymore, so we have to claim for sustainability, and this is what we should do now. And an artist from Mexico, Lázaro Gavino, answered that and say, we need to travel. This is the only way that we have as a performing arts collective to work. And we live in a country, in a region, this is our region, we don't have trains. We don't have any sustainability transportation. So should we stop working? Should we stop? How can we, or what is hidden between it? This is among the community. This is not, okay, this is any company, or there was a colleague from Europe, from France, who was already well known, who says we should stop travel. So I'm really concerned from our perspective, from our side, we're in Latin America, what is actually, is there many types of sustainability? And when I heard, okay, the festival is carbon neutral, I don't celebrate. I'm afraid of what is behind of that. But not directly.
No, I told you we can talk about this.
And I think, okay, what can we do in Latin America? The flights are really expensive. This is the only way we can. And some of the artists that we've met in Europe or in Canada because we don't have any connections between us. And it's not on this idea of, okay, let's make it sustainability. I don't know. That's just something that I wanted to share about this perspective. And I hear you, and I think that, okay, maybe that's too radical in a way, but for us, this is a topic that we cannot
just
address.
A quick thing with the carbon neutral thing. I was telling you before that we can discuss about this because we are not carbon neutral because no one traveled or we took everything out or we didn't do any screenings. We are carbon neutral because we paid for it, because we compensated. And I think that's really important to say because, I mean, obviously my dream thing would be to have no print at all, but that's impossible because we are going to keep celebrating the festival, and this is sustainable for other reasons. So we are carbon neutral because we pay the compensation. So,
Amaia, just one thing. What means be carbon free? What that means? Like, educate us. What that means in terms of.
I mean, it's a little bit difficult for me to say it in English, but basically it's that when you like pollute, you neutralize it in some way. So we are part of a program here in the territory where you pay for, I mean, it's really maybe ugly to say like this, but you pay for like the reforestation and the reconstruction of different like nature projects in the country. So we don't really go to like abroad to do anything. We pay for like the recovery of some areas here in the territory. But basically what it means is like what you make to the territory, you take it back like from natural projects and stuff like that, which is really difficult to get. I mean, it's not, yeah.
I wanted to point that this exchange conversation between Jerome Bell and one of the directors of Lagartijas al Sol about traveling is online. You can check it and read it because it is very interesting with all those speeches about climate change and when people say like, yeah, we are all in the same boat and we are all in this together, which is absolutely not true. When you consider what is the cause of climate change, no? Where does it come from? And the IPCC, the International Panel for Climate Change of the United Nations, I think in 2002, officially exposed that one of the main causes of climate change is colonialism. And then we have to take in consideration the causes to take a look to the solution, and we cannot put the responsibility equally in the side that causes climate change and the side that suffers climate change the most, no? Because this is also not balanced in the planet, like the side, like the so-called global north or global minority. And then the so-called global south or global majority that is suffering climate change the most, and we are asked to pay the same price as the side that caused this is still causing climate change, because it's not like it stopped. No, colonialism still existing and damaging the regions that are suffering the most. Like we were talking about mining yesterday with someone, the mining industry, that is coming from the global north, but is still damaging the most the global south. So I think we have to be really clear about this and not to try to make it homogenic, because it is absolutely not the case. And I wanted to talk a book about from Ailton Krenak. There is an indigenous leader from the Amazonia rainforest, and it's very short, it's amazing, Ideas to Postpone the End of the World, because I started to hear hearing a lot about the end of the world, and I think we have to really maybe help changing the narrative, because then we are feeding the algorithm, feeding the end of the world, and how can maybe from our from the work that we do to contribute to change this perspective, because another world already exists. It's not only the end of the world, which is a reality and it's existing, but there are other realities like the ones of the indigenous people that are really helping, supporting the regeneration of the world. And talking about the bonos de carbono and the, how do you call it in English again? Like the carbon neutral, when you pay to kind of wash the damage that you are doing. Like this is still also in the Amazonia rainforest, like in the indigenous communities, that the government are collecting this money from the bonos de carbono, and they go to the indigenous communities and they forbid them to hunt and to plant, because these regions where the European or global north industry or governments paid to clean their whatever their actions. Then they are promised that these territories will be untouched, and there are indigenous people living in this territory, and they live by hunting, by planting their own food, and they are being controlled now by the governments because they promised to the people that pay the bonos de carbon that these territories will be untouched, while next to their communities they are deforesting to plant soy to export to feed the cows that are going to be eaten in Europe, for instance. So yeah, this is really a topic where we have to go deep because it has many layers. Yeah.
Okay. Guys, we just have time for her question, and that's it, unfortunately. Like, we can continue this conversation. She kind of said that, okay. So I think we actually done because Mari's looking at me like we are pretty done here. So I appreciate all the questions.
But can George just voice the question?
Just voice. Okay, yes. Okay, yeah.
I will try to be as much as quick.
Okay.
Okay. I was very interested in the notion of development, and that Mr. Orwa addressed. How is the development and sustainability and culture and arts work together as a triangle, let's say? How we can let these the relation between these three notions to be a win-win situation, especially for the communities that are very close, very small communities, like our community in Palestine, and also maybe in the developing countries in the global south. How we can do a win-win situation between development or community development, sustainability, and arts and culture.
Yeah, that was actually the last question, but we didn't have time to go there because we were about to talk about community. But we can continue that in the lunch and the walking. We can continue the conversation about that. So thank you. Absolutely. We can continue this. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, guys. Yes, it was an incredible thing.